Hey everyone, we know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news in Israel, so if you haven't had the time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land with ILTV, have no worries. It's time for our new show this week in Israel, where we'll give you the scoop on everything you need to know about the last 7 days right from Tel Aviv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, here to keep you informed.
Israeli security officials have today announced that 3 Israeli Arabs from the northern city of al-Fahim have been charged with planning to commit a shooting attack at Jerusalem's Holy Temple Mount compound.
The 3 have been identified as Saeed Gasub Mahmoud Jabarin, Farez Salah Mahmoud, and a 16-year-old whose name has not been cleared for publication. Shin Bet officials say the 3 began visiting websites and media pages linked to ISIS and hope to join Islamic State fighters in Syria. The news comes after 3 terrorists, also from the city of al-Fahim, shot and killed 2 Israeli policemen near the Lions Gate in Jerusalem's Old City in July. The terrorist attack sparked massive clashes between Arab worshippers and Israeli security personnel when Israel announced they would be putting up metal detectors at the entrance of the Temple Mount compound. The 2-week protest led to serious tensions between Israel and the Palestinians, but was eventually resolved when Israel decided to remove security barriers, including the controversial metal detectors. Shin Bet officials say the 3 suspects began planning for the terrorist attack shortly after the July shooting and were already in possession of the weapons needed for the attack. Since the rise of ISIS, Israel estimates that dozens of Israeli Arabs have joined the Islamic State.
Several of Israel's top political leaders gathered in the Gush Etzion bloc yesterday to celebrate 50 years since Israel began constructing settlements.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was joined by ministers from his cabinet and Israel's Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein. Neither leaders of Israel's opposition parties nor a member from the Israeli High Court, however, were in attendance. Prime Minister Netanyahu declared that settlements will not be uprooted.
ההתיישבות חשובה לכם, חבריי, ובאותה מידה היא חשובה לי. ולכן אני אומר, לפני הכל, ובאופן ברור, לא תהיה יותר עקירה של יישובים בארץ ישראל.
Netanyahu went on to say that one of the main reasons why Israel will not evacuate settlements in the West Bank is because Israel fears the West Bank will become like Gaza, saying, quote, "We did not get peace when we uprooted settlements, we got terror and missiles, and we will not do that again," end quote. Meanwhile, a senior Trump official has reportedly told Prime Minister Netanyahu that although the United States does support Israel building settlements, they don't want Israel to build excessively. They said, quote, "You can be a pig, but don't be a chazel," meaning gluttonous. Reports suggest that Netanyahu relayed the message to settlement leaders, who in return explained to Netanyahu that they would like settlement building to increase and are waiting on approval for 10,000 new housing units.
3 Israelis have been killed and another seriously injured in a shocking terror attack near Jerusalem this morning. The incident took place near the Har Adar settlement early this morning, and according to police, the terrorist opened fire on a group of Israeli security officers at the back entrance of the settlement as they were opening up the rear path to Palestinian workers.
הוא פותח באש מול הסובבים אותו, אלה שממש במגע איתו ובבדיקת תיעוד וחיפוש וכולי וכולי. התגובה המהירה של לוחמת ושל לוחם, אחד מאבטח מהג'יפ ואחד ליד הג'יפ, שפותחים עליו באש והורגים אותו, בעצם סוגרים את האירוע הזה, אחרת הוא יכול להיכנס לתוך היישוב ולהמשיך בדרכו או במה שהוא התכוון לעשות במשימתו הרצחנית.
The assailant has now been identified as a 37-year-old from the nearby Palestinian village of Beit Surik. He aroused the suspicion of officers on the scene when he approached the settlement at 7 a.m., but managed to kill 3 people with a pistol before he was gunned down in response.
הבוקר התקבלה קריאה על פיגוע ירי בשער של הר אדר שנמצא פה מאחורינו. הגיעו למקום מספר מתנדבים מצוות אבו גוש, מצוות הר אדר, התחילו לטפל בנפגעים. לצערנו נקבע מותם של 3 נפגעים, אחד מהם פונה במצב קשה לבית החולים עין כרם.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called on Palestinian Authority President Abbas to condemn the attack and said the attack comes as a result of, quote, "systemic incitement by the Palestinian Authority and other elements," end quote. The Israeli leader also promised that the terrorist's home would be destroyed. Police say the terrorist was holding a work permit that allows him to work inside Israeli settlements. This makes him one of the few Palestinians to commit a terror attack recently while in possession of such a document. The 3 murdered victims are all in their 20s, 2 local security guards and 1 border police officer. Medics claim the 4th victim, who sustained serious injuries, is about 32 years old and was taken to a Jerusalem hospital with a gunshot wound to the stomach. He was reportedly fully conscious when he went into surgery at the facility. The Hamas terrorist organization has already praised the attack, claiming it proves that Jerusalem is at the heart of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The settlement of Haradar is located just inside the West Bank and slightly off the main highway leading into Jerusalem from Tel Aviv.
Well, Israeli politicians are now calling to take new measures against Palestinian terrorists following the tragic attack that took place in an Israeli settlement yesterday morning. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman's hawkish party, Israel Beitenu, has announced their plans to revive a bill that would sentence Palestinian terrorists to death. Knesset member Robert Ilatov claims this legislation would be the best way to deter Palestinians from committing future terror attacks, saying, quote, "The legislation needs to be clear and unequivocal. A terrorist who comes with the goal of murdering innocent civilians, his sentence is death." The Israel Beitenu party has been trying to pass this legislation for many years, and members within the party feel that after yesterday's events, it might have a chance of passing. Israel's Channel 2 News is even reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will support the bill. A recent poll has also shown that over 70% of Jewish citizens of Israel support the death penalty for terrorists. The death penalty has only been implemented once in Israeli civilian courts when Israel tried and convicted Nazi leader Adolf Eichmann in 1962. Meanwhile, Housing Minister Yoav Gallant has come up with another way of dealing with Palestinian terrorism. The former commander of the Southern Command of the IDF says that Israel should deport the families of Palestinian terrorists to Syria, saying, quote, "If you want to kill Israeli kids, we will deport you, not to Gaza, but to Syria. You're not allowed to stay here." Now here's some breaking news. The Palestinians have been accepted into the world's largest police organization, Interpol, even though Israel has been actively trying to thwart the request. Earlier today, over 75% of Interpol member states voted to accept the Palestinians into the organization as the 191st member. Out of the 133 member states who participated in the vote in China, 75 voted yes, 24 no, and another 34 abstained. The move is being hailed by Palestinian officials who are calling it a victory for the Palestinian people.
ليس فقط أن تكون دولة، بل دولة تستطيع أن تتحمل التزامات هذه المنظمة، أي لديها أجهزة شرطية وأجهزة أمنية قادرة على الوفاء بالتزامات دولة فلسطين، بنفس الوقت لديها قضاء ونظام قانوني يستطيع مساءلة المجرمين الذين ينتهكون القانون الفلسطيني وحقوق الشعب الفلسطيني.
The news comes as a major blow to Israeli security officials who are worried that Hamas will now have access to sensitive security information shared by the international police community. Israel's long-standing policy has been to oppose the Palestinians in their attempts to join international organizations. The Jewish state argues that the Palestinians should only be allowed to join these organizations once they are recognized as an official state and have concluded direct peace talks with Israel. While Israeli diplomats have worked to block the Palestinians from joining Interpol in 2015 and 2016, it seems like Israel just couldn't muster up enough support to block the Palestinians this time around.
So it looks like Hamas and Fatah are continuing to show that they are serious about reconciliation, as the Palestinian Authority has announced a major move to unify the two opposing factions. Palestinian Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah will arrive in the Gaza Strip next week in a rare and unifying visit. Hamas seized control of the coastal enclave in 2007, but in a short but brutal civil war against Fatah, and has been running the territory of roughly 2 million people ever since. A Palestinian Authority spokesperson said after consulting with PA President Mahmoud Abbas, the government led by Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah will hold their weekly meeting in Gaza next week instead of Ramallah.
بناء على قرار دولة رئيس الوزراء دولة الدكتور رامي الحمد الله بعد التشاور مع فخامة السيد الرئيس محمود عباس، قررت الحكومة الفلسطينية أن تعقد جلستها يوم الثلاثاء المقبل في قطاع غزة، حيث ستذهب إلى قطاع غزة لتتسلم كافة المؤسسات الحكومية هناك من أجل أن تقدم كافة خدماتها إلى أهلنا وشعبنا في قطاع غزة.
This will mark the first time in 2 years since the PA has held their weekly meetings in Gaza and signals that the two factions are serious about reconciliation. The announcement comes only a week after Hamas announced that they are ready to relinquish their control of the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority. And Hamas's decision to hand over control to the Palestinian Authority is largely based on the fact that the terrorist movement is isolated internationally and that the people of Gaza are facing a mounting humanitarian crisis. Hamdallah and several other senior PA officials are expected to arrive in Gaza on Monday to begin, quote, assuming responsibility, end quote, for the coastal enclave. That said, it still remains unclear if Hamas will agree to give up their power, since in the past they have refused to forego authority over their security affairs.
Now, here's some unlikely news coming from the Arab Gulf. The Kingdom of Bahrain has now publicly announced that they're possibly going to normalize ties with Israel as early as next year. ILTV's Aaron Porras has the story.
Though nobody expects a diplomatic mission to be set up in Bahrain anytime soon, ministers of trade and economic affairs will likely begin high-level talks. Though Bahrain, a majority Shiite Muslim country, has long supported anti-Israel ideologies, apparently mosques in the kingdom have already been instructed to stop anti-Israel rhetoric immediately. An unnamed official speaking with the Middle East Eye news agency said that Bahrain has started to understand the common enemy is Iran and is willing to work towards peace with Israel to fight Iran off. The official further explained that, quote, Israel does not threaten our security or conspire on us, but Iran certainly does, end quote. In fact, Bahrain is terrified of what Iran might do as hostilities rise. Iran has been long accused of setting up and supporting terror cells in the Gulf nation, and this is just the latest example of a slowly strengthening relationship between Bahrain and Israel. Israel was invited to a FIFA meeting in Bahrain earlier this year, and according to Israel's foreign ministry, the Bahraini king Hamid bin Isa al-Khalifa has already denounced the Arab boycott against Israel and has even confirmed that Bahraini citizens are now free to visit Israel.
Well, just when it seemed like relations between Israel and Turkey were finally starting to return to normal, the Turkish President Recep Erdogan is stirring the pot once again. He's now threatening to sever ties with Israel over the Jewish state's decision to support the establishment of an independent Kurdish state. On Tuesday, the Kurdish leader announced a victory in the referendum on independence. Turkish President Erdogan isn't happy, and he also isn't pleased that Israel has continued to openly support the Kurdish people. The Turkish leader is now hinting that if Israel does not review its support of the Kurdish people or withdraw it, Turkey may end up freezing ties with the Jewish state. Israel and Turkey have had a tumultuous relationship since 2010 when Israeli commandos raided the Gaza-bound Mavi Marmara. The ship was breaching Israel's naval blockade on the coastal enclave. 9 Turks were killed in the incident, which Israel is claiming was self-defense. After years of back-and-forth negotiations, Israel and Turkey finally reached a reconciliation agreement in 2016, but Erdogan's latest comments clearly show that things are not back to normal. Here's just a bit of what he said yesterday. Quote, Israel cannot save the new country of Kurdistan from Turkish military involvement. Who will recognize your independence? Israel? The world is not about Israel. You should know that the waving of Israeli flags there will not save you. So far, officials from the Israeli government have not responded to his comments, but Prime Minister hopeful and Knesset member Yair Lapid has had no problem slamming the Turkish leader. He took to Twitter to say, quote, Erdogan's threat to freeze ties if Israel continues to support Kurdish independence is empty. The relations are in any case hollow, and we don't take orders from them. A senior Russian official will be arriving to Israel in mid-October following several high-profile political meetings between Russia and Israel. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu will be making a historic and rare visit to the Holy Land this upcoming October, marking his first trip to Israel since becoming defense minister in 2012. The visit comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met Russian President Vladimir Putin last month in the Russian resort city of Sochi. The Israeli leader, as per usual, stressed to Putin that Israel is concerned with Iran's involvement in the Syrian civil war and, quote, increasing efforts to establish its military foothold in Syria. During his visit, Shoigu will be meeting with his Israeli counterpart Avigdor Lieberman. The two will, of course, focus on military coordination in Syria. The Russian government has openly backed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad during the country's 6-year civil war by providing troops and a political backbone. While it's true that Israel and Russia maintain very strong relations, the two have quietly clashed over Iran. Russia continues to insist that Iran is key to resolving the crisis in Syria, while Israel warns that Iran's involvement in Syria is a major security threat to the Jewish state. Israeli security officials have asked Russia to make sure Iranian-backed Shiite forces stay 60 kilometers away from Israel's border, but according to reports, Russia has denied this request. Israeli officials hope to receive more clarity from Shoigu and his entourage during the upcoming visit.
In a shocking twist, this weekend's Iranian ballistic missile test appears to have been fake news. United States security officials have revealed to Fox News Channel that this weekend's ballistic missile test did not take place at all. Yes, you heard that correctly. The officials claim the missile test video released by the Iranians is more than 7 months old and was simply recycled footage. The original verified footage was released by Iranian state TV in January and showed the launch of the Khorramshahr missile at the time. Officials said the missile flew for approximately 600 miles before exploding, resulting in a failed attempt. Shortly after the supposed missile test this weekend, United States President Trump lambasted Iran and tweeted, quote, "Iran just test-fired a ballistic missile capable of reaching Israel. They're also working with North Korea. Not much of an agreement we have," end quote. On Sunday, Iran continued its dangerous rhetoric by publicly displaying its Russian-made S-300 air defense system in the heart of Tehran, further heightening tensions between Iran and the West. As a reminder, on October 15th, President Trump is expected to tell the United States Congress whether he believes Iran is honoring the rules of the 2015 JCPOA nuclear agreement or not. If President Trump decides Iran is not abiding by the rules, the United States could renew sanctions or even cancel the agreement altogether. Trump claims he's actually already made his decision, but today's news could possibly change his mind. I guess now we just have to wait and see.
Shocking news. Experts in Argentina have just confirmed that the prosecutor Alberto Nisman was assassinated by two people just a day before he was set to testify about the bombing of the Amia Jewish Center in Buenos Aires. Nisman's body was found on January 18th of 2015, only a few hours before he was going to present evidence that the then Argentine President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner had covered up Iran's role in the 1994 attack on the Jewish Center, which left 85 dead and hundreds wounded. Now, local investigators have handed over a report to the courts revealing that Nisman had been beaten on his body as another person tried to subdue him and drugged with anesthetic ketamine. Nisman was found dead with a bullet from a .22 caliber that had been found in his apartment, leading police to claim that he had committed suicide. But suspect IT specialist Diego Lagomarsino is now saying that he went to Nisman's apartment to give him that very pistol, so that he could actually protect himself from the impending attack. Lagomarsino is apparently under hidden surveillance right now out of concern that he might flee justice. Argentina has previously accused the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terror organization of carrying out the attack against the Amia Jewish Center. The late Nisman was responsible for establishing how and when Iran commissioned the deadly bombing, along with another attack back in 1992 that left 29 dead in front of the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. Now, for some breaking news involving the highly controversial Elor Azaria case, IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot has just announced that he's reducing Elor Azaria's prison sentence from 18 months to 14 months. Eisenkot's decision comes after Elor Azaria wrote a letter to the IDF chief asking for clemency and a shorter sentence. Azaria was convicted earlier this year for killing an incapacitated Palestinian assailant while he was an IDF soldier stationed in the West Bank city of Hebron. Video footage of the incident went viral, throwing the case into the global spotlight. The incident has divided Israelis on how soldiers should respond to Palestinian attackers who are incapacitated. The announcement today surely puts the saga to an end, which both the Israeli government and the army surely will be happy about. Mexico is thanking Israel for the Jewish state's extensive help in the aftermath of a devastating series of earthquakes that have hit the country. Dozens of Israeli rescuers are taking part in the search for survivors in the rubble as part of one of the biggest contingencies working in Mexico.
קודם כל צריך להבין, המידע שיש לנו הוא מידע של אנשים שהיו בתוך דירות מסוימות. לאן הם הגיעו במהלך הרעידת אדמה, לאן הם ברחו, איפה הם נמצאים בדיוק, אנחנו לא יכולים לדעת עד שאנחנו לא מוצאים אותם. יש לנו מידע, אנחנו מחפשים. עד מתי נמשיך? כמה שיתנו לנו, או כמה שאנחנו נוכל.
Over 300 people have been killed following Tuesday's quake, which leveled 52 different buildings in the capital of Mexico. The 7.1 magnitude earthquake was just the first last week. However, 2 more quakes rattled southern Mexico just yesterday. Hundreds have been left homeless because of the devastation, as others search desperately for their loved ones.
Está mi hermana allá adentro, no nos han dicho nada, no nos han informado, siempre salen con lo mismo, paciencia, paciencia, ¿hasta cuánto? ¿Cuánto tiempo más? ¿Cuánto tiempo nada? Tenemos que tener paciencia.
Israel is one of the first countries to send aid to Mexico. On Thursday, a 71-member delegation from the Israeli Army's Home Front Command arrived in the Latin American country. The Israeli aid organizations IsraAid and IAID have also sent delegations to help, and they're all being greeted with relief and love.
Israel was very quick. We are extremely thankful to President Netanyahu for his quick response. The Israeli crews are already working in Mexico City, and these are expert crews.
The last time Mexico faced such a deadly earthquake was back in 1985 when a deadly tremor killed 5,000 people. Israel is often one of the first countries to send humanitarian delegations to countries hit by natural disasters and will be working side by side with other rescue teams from the United States, Japan, and Spain in the aftermath of the latest damage in Mexico.
We are here in order to help the Mexican people. We have a rescue team, we have engineers that are helping the government to bring back life to normal, and obviously, and most importantly, to try and help and rescue people. And we are really hoping that we'll be able to assist in any way we can. So be strong, Mexico, and Israel is always here for you.
As if Israelis weren't excited enough about Israeli actress Gadot becoming the world's new Wonder Woman, she's back again with even better news. That's right, our Israeli superwoman will officially be hosting Saturday Night Live next month. Gadot will be starring in the 43rd season of SNL, which starts on September 30th. Make sure to mark down October 7th in your calendar, because that's when the Israeli actress will be taking center stage on the show. This will be the first time she's hosted the late-night program, and her episode will even be featuring the British singer Sam Smith as its musical guest. We can't wait. In case you've been living under a rock, Gadot was selected to host Saturday Night Live after she starred as Wonder Woman in the box office hit this summer. She's already signed up to star in a sequel, and if you just can't wait until that comes out, make sure to catch Justice League, which will be hitting theaters in November. Gadot will be starring as Wonder Woman yet again.
All right, now we have ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh to tell us all about the top 5 best activities to do at no cost at all.
Yes, well, there are an endless amount of adventures to go on in the Holy Land, but I'm here to give you guys the top 5 free activities to do in Tel Aviv. At number 1, the markets in Tel Aviv are the heartbeats of the city. Shopping isn't a must, I mean for some of us it is, but more importantly, come prepared to experience all the colorful stalls, the insane smells, and to hear lots of people shouting. The vendors can be found selling all different types of spices, dried fruit, fresh produce, fish, and of course tons of gummies. Get ready to eat and take pictures. Now on to entertainment. Park Hayalkon is home to hundreds of live concerts and events throughout the years, from people like Britney Spears and Justin Bieber to Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith. It's been one rock and roll ride with these international performers, but that's not all the park has to offer. There's the botanical gardens, sport facilities, and even 2 mini zoos. Definitely worth a walk in the park. Okay, this one may seem obvious, but the beach. No matter how many times people say it, it won't be the same until you come and experience it for yourself. Each beach has its own vibe, personality, and culture. You got your Banana Beach, which is more family style. Frishman Beach, you got a lot of internationals. And Gordon is where the true Israelis lie. Visit all of them if you have time. No visit to Tel Aviv is complete without a trip to one of the world's oldest cities, Yafo. Old Yafo isn't only known for its historic atmosphere, but also top designers and artists come to open shop in this trendy new neighborhood. Oh, and remember those fabulous markets I mentioned before? Yup, there's one there too. Last but not least, we have the Tel Aviv port, filled with tons of culture, entertainment, and activities for the whole family. The 14,000 square meters of wooden deck acts as a huge promenade with lots of great food, bars, and clubs for a great daytime activity, as well as a little taste of the crazy nightlife.
That's it for this week's Roundup. Tune in next Friday for our next episode of This Week in Israel. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from Tel Aviv.